The drop pod fell from orbit like a burning stone. Fire streaked across the clouds as it hit the surface and tore a trench through the ground. Metal screamed. Inside, Corporal Ethan Cole held on, teeth clenched, body shaking from impact. When the pod stopped, everything was smoke and silence. His ears rang. The world outside was a mix of red sky and dark shapes moving through fog. He kicked the hatch open and stepped out. The air smelled like iron and dust. The sky burned with streaks of plasma fire far above. Human ships were gone. Only wrecks and wreckage remained. His suit's display showed no friendly signals. The comm was full of static. He called again and again, hoping to hear another voice. Nothing answered. He was alone. Ethan walked forward, boots crunching over black soil and broken armor plates. He saw human helmets, cracked and empty. Weapons lay half-buried, their energy cells drained. A ruined transport burned in the distance. It was painted with the mark of his unit. He had dropped into the wrong zone. Command had pulled back hours ago. He crouched near a corpse. The armor was torn open by something sharp. Not gunfire, something bigger, something that hunted up close. Ethan's jaw tightened. He picked up the soldier's combat knife and clipped it to his belt. A sound came from behind the rocks. A low growl. He turned, rifle up, scanning the haze. Shapes moved in the fog. Not human. The Vorkai. He had seen them from afar, never this close. Tall, armored with bone-like plates, and carrying long plasma spears. They spoke in their own tongue, clicking and growling. Their eyes glowed faint green in the dark. Ethan stepped back, heart pounding. There were too many. He looked around for cover, but the ground was open. His rifle showed half power. No time to run. No place to hide. The first spear hit near his feet. Dirt and energy flared. He fired in return, cutting one alien down. The others hissed and spread out, forming a circle. They moved fast, confident, like hunters around a trapped beast. Ethan reloaded, breathing slow. Fear was there, but so was something colder. He thought of his unit. All gone. He thought of the command ship leaving orbit without him. That cold feeling turned to fire. The Vorkai chief stepped forward. Taller than the rest, his armor carried skulls of past kills. He shouted in his language, raising his weapon. Ethan did not wait to be ordered or killed. He raised his rifle and fired until the battery died. 2 more fell. The others roared and rushed him. Ethan threw the rifle aside, pulled the knife, and met them halfway. A spear slashed across his shoulder. Pain shot through him. He grabbed the shaft, pulled it close, and stabbed the alien in the throat. Hot green blood sprayed his visor. He kicked the body down and grabbed the spear. The air shook with their screams. Ethan turned in a circle, blood dripping, chest heaving. The remaining warriors stopped their charge. They stared at the human who stood in their ring, holding one of their own weapons, covered in their blood. He smiled. Not wide, not happy. A tired smile that carried no fear. The kind of smile that belonged to someone who had nothing left to lose. From behind the mist, a deep metallic growl rolled through the air. The Vorkai stepped aside and bowed their heads. A massive beast walked forward, its body made of flesh and armor, its eyes red like burning coals. On its back sat a figure in silver armor, tall and silent. Ethan gripped the spear tighter. The figure raised a hand. The beast stopped. Then the voice came through a translator, rough but clear. "You will die slow, human." Ethan took one step forward and said, "We'll see." The beast's breath came out in waves of heat. Its claws tore at the ground, leaving deep cuts in the soil. The armored rider pointed a spear at Ethan, and the Vorkai around them began to close in again. The air filled with the hum of plasma energy. Ethan's grip on his stolen weapon tightened. The first strike came fast. A spear whistled past his head, missing by inches. Ethan ducked and rolled forward, driving his weapon into the chest of the nearest warrior. The spear pulsed and exploded from inside the alien's armor. He pulled it free and turned before another hit could land. He fought in short bursts, moving fast and staying low. His training took over. Every motion was survival. His blade cut into soft joints between armor plates. His boots kicked dust into alien eyes. Each kill made the circle smaller, but they kept coming. The Vorkai commander watched from his mount, unmoving. He seemed to study Ethan like a scientist observing a strange animal. When another wave of warriors fell, the commander raised his hand. The rest stopped. Silence fell. The wind hissed through the wreckage. Ethan stood in the center, blood running from a cut on his face. His arm shook from pain. The commander dismounted. The beast growled but obeyed his signal. The alien stepped forward, spear in one hand, sword in the other. "You fight with madness," the commander said through his translator. "Is this what makes humans dangerous?" Ethan spat blood. "No, this is what happens when you leave one alive." The alien charged. The ground shook with his steps. Ethan barely blocked the first hit. The shock ran up his arm, almost breaking bone. The next swing came low. He jumped back, losing balance but landing on one knee. He swung his spear in a quick thrust, aiming for the throat. The alien caught it with his bare hand. Metal cracked. He kicked Ethan across the chest, throwing him to the dirt. Pain flashed through Ethan's ribs. He rolled before the next strike hit. The sword slammed down beside his head, slicing into the ground. Ethan grabbed a rock and threw it into the alien's faceplate. The commander roared, staggered for half a second, and Ethan lunged. The spear point went through the commander's shoulder. The alien didn't fall. Instead, he grabbed Ethan's wrist and twisted. Bones popped. Ethan dropped the weapon. The alien lifted him by the neck and stared into his eyes. "You bleed easy," the voice said. "Weak blood." Ethan's vision blurred. His hands clawed at the alien's grip, but it was like steel. Then his other hand found the knife at his waist. He drew it and stabbed upward, right under the chin of the helmet. The blade slid in deep. Green blood splashed his face. The commander dropped him, gasping. Ethan fell to his knees, coughing hard. The alien staggered back, choking, then fell to one side, motionless. The rest of the Vorkai froze in shock. Ethan stood up, holding the bloody knife. His chest burned with every breath. He looked at the fallen commander and said, "Guess that's your answer." For a moment, no one moved. Then one of the warriors let out a scream of rage. More joined. The sound rolled through the fog like thunder. Ethan turned toward the beast that had carried the commander. It lowered its head and sniffed the body. Then it looked up at Ethan. Its red eyes glowed brighter. Ethan backed away, breathing hard. The beast let out a roar that shook the ground. The Vorkai stepped aside, letting it charge. Ethan ran, grabbing the broken plasma spear as he went. Behind him, the ground exploded under the beast's weight. Its jaws snapped close to his back. He dove through the wreckage of an old transport, sliding under twisted metal. The beast crashed into the wreck, tearing it apart. Ethan crawled through sparks and fire, lungs burning. He reached the other side, climbed out, and turned. The creature burst through the wreck like a tank. He raised the spear, aimed at its chest, and pressed the power cell trigger. The weapon hummed, glowing hot. The beast lunged. The screen of light from the spear filled his vision as he screamed and drove it forward. The spear exploded with a blinding flash. The beast screamed as the blast tore through its chest. The shockwave threw Ethan back into the dirt. His ears rang. Smoke filled the air. When he opened his eyes, the monster was down, twitching, burning from inside. Ethan pushed himself up, shaking. His armor was cracked, his shoulder bleeding. Around him, the remaining Vorkai stared in silence. Then they turned and ran into the fog, dragging their dead. The battlefield went quiet except for the sound of fire and the low hiss of dying power cells. Ethan dropped the burned spear and sat on the ground, breathing heavy. His vision swam. He tore a strip from his sleeve and wrapped his shoulder. The wound burned, but the bleeding slowed. He looked at the fallen commander and muttered, "Guess your hunt's over." He had no time to rest. The fog shifted again. He heard distant shouts in the alien language. More were coming. He grabbed his knife, checked the energy rifle of a fallen warrior, and began to move. He stayed low, weaving between wrecks and bones. The air shimmered with heat from fires still burning. He found a small ridge that gave him a view of the valley below. Hundreds of lights moved through the mist. More Vorkai. Hunters, drones, beasts. They were sweeping the area. Ethan looked at his wrist display. Battery power low. Ammo almost gone. He was outnumbered and surrounded. He closed his eyes for a moment. A deep breath steadied him. Then he opened them and started building traps. He scavenged what he could: power cores, shattered weapons, broken armor. He rigged them with fuses and buried them under rubble. He used the beast's plasma organs as volatile fuel. He worked fast, silent, every move planned. If he was going down, he would take them with him. Hours passed. Night settled. The sky turned dark red, lit by fires and distant storms. Ethan crawled into a ruined structure that looked like an old bunker. Inside, he found bones. Human bones. Dozens of them, their armor still marked with Earth insignias. He knelt beside one and brushed the dust from the nameplate. His throat tightened when he read it. Cole. Same last name as his. It was his brother's unit. The beacon beside the bones still blinked, faint and broken. He lifted it, wiping grime off the screen. The last log entry was weeks old. It said, "If anyone finds this, we held the line. We didn't run." Ethan's hands shook. He felt cold inside, colder than space. He stared at the remains and whispered, "You didn't run. Neither will I." Outside, the howls grew louder. The hunt had begun again. He placed the beacon on the floor and reprogrammed it. The signal would now attract the Vorkai instead of calling for rescue. He set it to broadcast wide, across every channel. When the device blinked to life, a red pulse swept through the valley. Alien scanners would see it. They would come for it. They would come for him. Ethan stood, tightening his gear. The traps were ready. The signal was live. He looked down at his brother's remains one last time and said, "You wanted a fight. Let's give them one." Then he stepped out into the storm. The night turned alive with motion. Shapes moved in the fog. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Ethan climbed to higher ground and watched them gather like a wave of shadows. The sound of war drums echoed through the mist. He gripped his knife and whispered to himself, "Let them all come." Lightning split the sky. The ground shook from marching feet. The Vorkai hunt had found him again. Ethan smiled through blood and dirt, standing tall against the storm. Somewhere deep in the valley, a new sound rose. Metal grinding, engines waking, machines powering up. It wasn't Vorkai tech. It was human. The sound of engines rolled through the valley. It was deep and heavy, not alien. Ethan turned toward the noise. Firelight showed the outline of metal wrecks shifting under dust. Something inside them was alive again. One of the old transports his brother's unit had used was powering up. He had triggered its systems when he activated the beacon. He ran toward it through smoke and wind. The transport's lights flickered weakly. Its hull was torn, but the core still glowed faint blue. Ethan climbed inside through a broken hatch. The air was thick with ash. He found the control panel half melted but working. The machine was trying to restart. He smiled a little. "You old bastard," he muttered. Still breathing. Outside, the Vorkai moved closer. He could hear their roars. He opened the storage compartment and found what he hoped for: power cells, grenades, and an old railgun with a cracked barrel. It would not last long, but it would work. He set the grenades along the outer walls, linking them to a motion sensor. Then he pulled the railgun into position, pointing at the valley entrance. The traps from earlier were in place. Everything was ready. He climbed up through a hole in the roof. From there, he could see them. Hundreds of warriors marching through the fog carrying torches and plasma spears. At their front rode a new leader, wearing black armor lined with silver marks. The Vorkai shouted his name, Kadrin, the new commander. Ethan loaded the railgun and braced it against the wreck. "Let's finish this," he said. The first line of Vorkai charged. The traps exploded, lighting the valley like a sunrise. Fire swallowed the front ranks. Bodies fell. Ethan fired the railgun, sending burning metal rods through their lines. Each shot tore holes in their formation, but more came. They were too many. The explosions tore apart the ground. Smoke mixed with fire. Ethan reloaded and kept shooting. His shoulders screamed with pain from the recoil. His armor alarms screamed about heat, pressure, and blood loss, but he ignored them. He only focused on aiming. When the railgun died, he grabbed the alien rifle from his back and fired from the rooftop. The air filled with beams of blue light and shards of metal. The Vorkai climbed over their dead, unstoppable. Ethan saw Kadrin walking through the fire unharmed. The alien's armor shimmered, absorbing heat. He carried 2 spears that glowed like molten iron. Ethan dropped from the roof before a blast hit. The transport shook as Kadrin's warriors struck it. Ethan ducked inside and triggered the grenades. The side walls blew open, sending a wave of fire across the front ranks. Screams filled the air. He crawled through the smoke, coughing hard. His vision blurred, but he kept moving. He reached the old command chair and opened the transport's comms. It still had a working recorder. He pressed the record key. "If anyone finds this is Corporal Ethan Cole, Human Forces, Sector 9. I held position after the fall. No survivors. This message is proof that we never stopped fighting." He paused. "Tell them we didn't die running." He ended the message and sent it to the beacon. It would keep broadcasting until power ran out. The noise outside changed. No more screams, just heavy steps. Kadrin had reached the wreck. Ethan stood, grabbed the last grenade, and waited. The alien stepped through the smoke, towering, blood-smeared, eyes glowing. "You killed my kin," Kadrin said through the translator. "You killed my beast. You think you win?" Ethan raised the grenade. "No, I think I make you bleed." He threw it and ran. The blast threw him across the sand. Fire rolled behind him, swallowing the wreck. He hit the ground hard and didn't move for a moment. When he lifted his head, Kadrin was still standing in the flames, armor cracked, still alive. Ethan's knife was gone. His ammo was gone. His body was breaking, but he smiled anyway and whispered, "Always." Kadrin stepped forward through the smoke, dragging a spear. The firelight turned his eyes bright red. The storm above broke open with thunder. Both of them moved at the same time. Kadrin and Ethan charged. The storm hit with them, lightning cutting across the sky. Their weapons met in a flash of heat and sound. The spear cracked against Ethan's arm guard, tearing it apart. He swung a piece of broken metal and slammed it into Kadrin's faceplate. Sparks flew. The alien roared and struck again. Ethan rolled aside, grabbed a fallen spear, and lunged. The point slid under Kadrin's armor. The alien staggered, but his massive hand caught Ethan by the throat and lifted him. Ethan's boots kicked in the air. The grip crushed tighter. His vision dimmed. Kadrin's voice rumbled, "You die, human." Ethan pressed the plasma trigger on the spear still lodged in Kadrin's armor. The weapon exploded with a burst of white light. Both were thrown apart. The ground shook under the blast. Ethan hit the dirt and didn't move for a few seconds. The rain began to fall, thick and heavy, hissing on hot metal and fire. He pushed himself up, breathing hard. His visor was cracked, blood in his mouth. Kadrin was still alive, crawling through the flames. His armor was broken open, one arm gone, but he kept coming. Ethan limped toward him. The spear was gone, so he pulled the knife from his boot. His body felt like stone. Every step hurt. The alien looked up and bared his teeth. They were both dying, and both knew it. Kadrin lunged first. Ethan sidestepped and slammed the knife into his side. The alien grabbed Ethan's arm and twisted. Bones cracked. Ethan yelled and headbutted him, breaking the faceplate. The two crashed to the ground, rolling through mud and fire. The knife cut deep again. Kadrin fell back, clutching the wound. Ethan crawled on top of him, pressing the blade to his throat. "This is for everyone you burned," he said, and drove the knife in. The alien's body went still. The firelight flickered over them. Ethan stayed there, staring at the face under the broken helmet. It looked almost human in the dark. He felt no victory, only silence. He pulled himself to his feet. The battlefield was empty now. The storm had drowned the fires. Smoke drifted low, covering everything. He limped toward the ridge, dragging one arm. Behind him, Kadrin's body sank into the mud. At the top of the ridge, he saw what was left of the valley. Wrecks burning, alien bodies everywhere. The signal beacon still flashed weakly in the distance. He opened his comm, voice barely working. "If anyone hears this, it's over. This is Corporal Ethan Cole. I held position, Sector 9, mission complete." He let the comm drop and looked up at the sky. Through the clouds, a faint light broke. Not lightning this time. Engines. A ship. It grew larger, cutting through the smoke. Human markings. A recon craft. They had returned. Ethan tried to wave, but his arm failed him. He smiled weakly. His knees gave out and he sank to the ground. When the ship landed, soldiers ran out in armor cleaner and brighter than his. They found him sitting against a burned rock, eyes half open. One of them knelt. "He's still breathing. Get the med kit." Ethan's eyes flickered open. "Did we win?" he asked. The soldier looked around at the bodies. "You did?" Ethan nodded once, then went still. The medic checked his pulse and lowered his head. The team began collecting data cores and samples. One of them picked up Ethan's cracked helmet. The recording system inside was still running. They played the last message. His voice came through, rough but calm. "If they call us monsters, let them remember who made us." As they packed up, the ground behind them shifted. In the smoke, something moved. A shadow stood up among the ruins, holding a Vorkai spear. It was Ethan. He looked at the leaving ship, then turned toward the alien horizon. His voice was low. "War's not over.